Alrighty,
Hey,
everyone
we're
ready?
recording. Yeah, take it away, Z.
All right, let's go. What's good, everyone? This is your man Z, and welcome to new episode of Passport to the Pros. Today, we wanted to dive more into details and take you to the preparations and hours that put before you see what you see on the court. Our guest is specialized in player and human development in general. He's the founder of Danny Cooper Basketball and Academy and much, much more. Please welcome me, our special guest today, Danny Cooper. Man, how are you? Thank you for making it.
I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. We're excited to have you too. We have a lot to talk about. So, we really appreciate taking the time and give us some of your, knowledge and experience. Um, we have a bunch of questions for you and we wanted to get to know you more. But before, let me welcome my friend, teammate, producer, everything, the man behind all of this magic we see right now. Michael, how are you, man? Thanks for being
I'm
here.
I'm good, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, this is an exciting episode. As you know, as our audience knows, we're always trying to expose them to new sources and information of the best ways to advance your career in basketball, no matter what that may be. And I'm really happy that we have Danny today to talk us through his approach to player development and how what he's doing to help players both young and across the NBA. So it's going to be a great episode. So again, Danny, yes, thank you for making the time.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get into it. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, the best way to start the episode always is get to know you more through your own words. I always say, like, you look up people, you see what the media talking about them, but to hear it in their own words always sounds more special. So for the people who don't know you and the great career and you made something out of nothing. So man, I'm much respect to you. I think a lot of people would like to know how you got where you are right now and your great journey. So the mic is yours now. So take over.
Well, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, my name's Danny Cooper. I'm a 25-year-old. I was born outside of Philadelphia, and basketball was just kind of always my favorite thing. I played at a powerhouse high school, played Division III basketball, and then started training players in my community when I was 16 years old as a junior in high school. And fast forward 9, 10 years, there's a lot of in between, but I've kind of just been building up my knowledge as a player development coach, been able to, get a ton of experiences traveling the world and working with a ton of high level players and amazing people, and just been able to build a really cool business and a really cool team, most importantly. And now we're able to work with hundreds of players weekly in the Philly area. And then we also are able to help tons of coaches, trainers, players, and parents online, and also have a lot of professional and college players as well. So a lot in between there, but that's kind of the gist of everything we got going on.
Man,
That's awesome,
awesome.
man. That's awesome.
It grabbed my attention when I was reading more about your academy or your business that you don't only develop player, you develop a human being. We believe like to be a good player, you have to be a good human being. So, how did you
Yes.
come to this conclusion? How did you come like this is what I want to do? This is what I can contribute and add a lot of expertise, let's say.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people miss is the emotional intelligence side, not just in sports, but in life. So I would say around 5 or 6 years ago, I started to really dive deep into working on myself and working on emotional skills like empathy and, just kindness and just different ways that us as men, I feel like, are not always taught growing up when we're playing sports. And what I found was when I started to focus on perspective and gratitude and just different emotional skills, I found my game to actually improve when I was in college. That's really when I started to focus on it. And so it was kind of a no brainer to me where if your mind is not right and you're not able to detach from just being a basketball player, it's going to be hard to reach your full potential. So I kind of took that experience. It was almost a crash course in leadership and emotional intelligence when I was a player. And now I just pour that into my players. And we found some really good results from that. So I kind of just got thrown into it myself and got to experiment with it. And now I'm able to share it and pass it down to the next generation. So
Yeah, I mean, can't put it better than the way you put it together. You know, it's always how when you write mentally, your body will follow. I remember we did a lot of work with Tim Grover, and he was like, "Let me fix you mentally, then your body will follow everything later." So I
Yeah,
agree with you
yeah.
100%. But let's see. Let's go back a little bit when you were still playing. How did you start to see things? How you wanted to pivot, probably. Um, when that moment was like, you know, I'm gonna choose a different path, I'm not gonna keep going at playing, for example, or what went through your mind at that point?
Yeah, I mean, helping people and making money were always a passion of mine. I was the kid who was shoveling snow and trying to resell
I
sneakers
like the sound of that for sure.
and stuff like that. So I going to the NBA was always my dream, and up until 19 or 20, you still couldn't tell me I wasn't going to make it. And then, I've always been delusional and not realistic and stuff of that nature, but it got to the point where I was like, okay, what am I going to be able to do in order to make a lot of money and help a lot of people? And training just kind of naturally fell in my lap. Like I said, I started doing it in high school, and then I just kind of fell in love with the journey and the process of helping someone from ground zero and building them up. And the coolest part is, because I've been doing it so long, I have clients who are at high major Division I programs now that I started with when they were in 6th and 7th grade. So that's the coolest part for me, is seeing that journey. And I almost like training and coaching way more than being a player in some ways, because when you're a player, you really only impact yourself and maybe some of your teammates, but as a coach and trainer, the impact is so much greater. So it's been a lot of fun to take on that journey.
Of
Can I
course,
hop
of
in?
course.
I wanted to ask you, Danny, like, who do you think, and different tiers, like, as someone who would be considering wanting to join your thing, or for younger, let's say, parents who want to sign their kids up, what are the best candidates, and what do you look for in the candidates, in the players you take on? Obviously, you don't want to turn anybody away, but what do you sort of look for, that in terms of the players that have the highest potential?
Yeah, number one, you have to be willing to get uncomfortable. So my training style is not normal. It's not the typical dribble through cones and make a lot of layups. It's a very messy style of training. So there's defense, there's contests, there's challenge, right? And so number one, the child has to be willing to make mistakes and go through adversity, and then also just be willing to compete. We're big on that as well. So we try not to turn anybody away, but it's getting to the point where if you don't kind of fit our style, we'll just kind of kindly tell you that you're not for us and you can go find somebody else. But I think competing and being willing to fail are two of our biggest things. And then obviously loving the game and just craving those results are really important for us, because it's hard for us to pour all of our time and energy into an athlete if they're not going to give it back to us.
Yeah, well, with that being said, would you introduce us or let us know a little bit more about your philosophy? You know, I work with in player development field, and you know, every coach has a different way to look at things. Every coach has, you know, point to focus on. Please share with us, like, you know, your philosophy, how you see things, why it's more than just a cone and just you know, the body thing. Let us know more about it,
Yeah.
if you don't.
Yeah, I think after 10 years of just studying and implementing and experimenting, I've really tried to blend and merge so many different philosophies and techniques into one. So I'm definitely not married to one philosophy. What I really have found to be successful and I've fallen in love with is the CLA, the constraints led approach, and the games based approach, where essentially instead of putting players through drills and teaching them the exact technique on how to do things, I'm essentially an environment architect and I'm creating the environment for them to be able to find solutions. So I'm basically designing a drill or a scenario to create a problem, and now I'm trying to build problem solvers and essentially architect the environment so they're able to find the solution themselves. And then the one thing I've really been studying and trying to master the last year is the art of feedback. So, when do I step into the drill and give them, this is the solution? When do I shut up and I just let them fail and figure it out? And that's kind of the style I've really enjoyed. And when I was a player in college, I used to put my teammates and I through this style, and we found the results to be, so much better than my former training style, which was kind of just 1-on-0, trying to perfect moves and techniques. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a time and place for that, and I still train for specific techniques, especially a lot of footwork and movement patterns. But I think the combination of those two has been really molded my philosophy. And every player is different, right? So some players you got to meet on this end, some you got to meet on this end of the spectrum. But I've found that to be very effective, and players really enjoy it.
And that sounds so good. I want to jump in. Well, I don't know if you would take me, but I would love to join you for one session one day. It
Yeah,
sounds really good because I learned too that
anytime. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you. I learned too that, like you said, just put the players in the same situation. Yeah, repetition is great, and there's certain stuff like, the basic, the footwork, like you said, but it's always how to make them more creative, more able to deal with something new. It's gonna happen in the game, how, handle pressure and all that. So I absolutely feel related. One question I want to ask in that regard, how do you feel about the player perception? I'm sure not. I faced this in my life where not all the player really easy to coach. Like some of them, you have to be a little aggressive with them, a little bit harsh. Some people you have to make them more comfortable. You work with a lot of players on a higher level. The higher the level is, the harder to make him or her do the drill or get into them. So how you deal with those? How you deal with player perceptions?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a human psychology is something that I've been trying to master, and everybody is different. The one thing that I've tried to get better at, and now that I'm getting a little bit older and learning, is my confidence and my knowledge is more than half the battle. So if I come in and I'm super confident and I'm super prepared and I show them that I know their game almost more than they do, I've found that garners a lot of respect, and they're going to listen a lot. In the past, when I've kind of just tried to wing it and I'll come in and not be as prepared, it's harder to get as much buy-in from them. But if they see that you're putting in all the time and effort and you're really invested in them, I think you're just naturally going to get that buy-in, because I've done some things like I'm big on watching film, and I'll study, I'll watch all the possessions from some of my players before I train them. And they tell me nobody's ever done that for them before. So just naturally, as a human, if somebody does something for you that's never been done before, you're probably going to look at them in a different light and respect them a little bit more. So that's one thing how I garner respect. Then in terms of dealing with their personalities, it's just mastering communication and human psychology and trying to meet players where they're at. Some players I can get on and yell at. Other guys I gotta, you know, baby a little bit, which I don't like to do. But you gotta kind of meet players where they are. And I prefer the player that I can coach really hard and I can get on. But not everybody's like that. So you have to adapt, and you have to realize that people respond to things differently. So
That's funny. We had sorry, I wanted to bring up the story. We had
No,
Coach
please.
Adam Felipe on our podcast a few episodes ago. One of the shooting coaches in the NBA
okay,
that worked with Kobe and currently working with the Amen with the Thompson twins. And he mentioned something similar. Like he really had to get his shot, to a high level, and he needed the players to see him
yeah.
sink like 10 in a row before they start to actually really buy into what he's telling them about breaking down their shot and fixing it. So we totally hear that.
Yeah, no,
Um,
it's real. It's like would you want to have a personal trainer who's out of shape? Probably not, right? So it's the same thing with a basketball coach. If they can't perform a movement that they're trying to teach you, it's really hard to get a buy-in from that.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
Yeah, no,
100%.
100%. I remember when I was with the Hornets for a while, the general manager at that time, he was telling me that if you get the player to know that you really care about them and you're competent, they're gonna listen to you. Players, once they feel like you're really good, like I want to learn from him, and at the same time, you know that you care. You can yell, you can do whatever you want, but how to get to that point? It's the magic. And man, I'm so honored to sit down and listen to you because the more I listen to what you're saying, the more I feel related from back in the days when I was playing and now when I'm dealing with the players too. So that's a huge. Mike, you have something you want to ask? I know you have a lot of questions. You you were preparing
Well, the
yourself
one
for.
the one thing, sorry to go back a little bit because we hear it a lot, right? That you have to the players need to be committed. They have to be bought in. They need to know what it means to feel uncomfortable. I guess my question is there a way to really lay that out for the audience of what it really takes in terms of like something quantifiable? Is it hours? Is it waking up? Is it staying after the gym? Like, a lot of people may say, "Yeah, I'm bought in. I'm committed 100%." But like, maybe a lot of people don't know what that actually means, or
Yeah.
what the players that are actually doing it, what it looks like. So, is there a way that we can just paint that picture for?
Yeah, I mean, there's different levels to it. The top guys that I work with, they'll have a strict sleep schedule where they have to be in bed by a certain time. Then the next day, it's an on court skill workout in the morning, say 9 a.m. Then it's a full body lift at noon. Then it's a shooting workout at 4 p.m. And that's Monday through Friday. Saturday, they play pickup or get up and down and do 3-on-3 or 5-on-5. And then maybe Sunday's a rest day or yoga. And that's an entire summer. So that's kind of like the bare minimum. If you really want to be great, then the next level is studying film, taking your nutrition seriously. Like I said, sleep, becoming a better human in the mind, and different stuff like that. So that's really what people don't see. It truly is a full-time job um, in chasing greatness. And then the one thing I will say is I've learned from some of my higher level players, while that work is necessary, also detaching from yourself as a basketball player, kind of like we touched on a little bit earlier, and just enjoying life as a human. And I think the players that I've worked with who have learned to do that actually become better on the court. And it's still something I'm trying to figure out every single day is how that works, because I'm finding as a business owner as well, when I take 2 days off and I detach from the business and I try not to even think about it, I come back on Monday and I'm even better. So it's one of those things where you need to be obsessed, but you also need to be smart and strategic about your work.
Definitely, I think
To,
getting some
to
perspective.
tie everything, yep. Let me tie everything you said to a little bit more what we like to talk about. Do you find any differences? Because you have players who playing here in the NBA, playing on in college, and you have player playing overseas, and you have player coming from overseas here. What's your perspective on international players? Do you see any differences between working with somebody who was born and raised here, or someone was taking this journey to come all over here chasing dream?
Yeah.
What do you think about working with international players?
Yeah, I think a lot of the international players, and this is a gross generalization, but a lot of them have more of a chip on their shoulder, and they're inherently tougher, I think, because they have to be. So one of my guys right now, he is from Sweden. He came over a couple of years ago. He's at one of the top high schools in the Philadelphia area, and like you could just tell he's so locked in and focused. We do 6 a.m. workouts up at his school a couple of days a week, and his attention to detail and focus. Not that the American players don't have it, but just I feel like is on another level. Like he's craving details and he's craving coaching, because I think it's so normalized in America that you can really get in the gym whenever you want. You have unlimited access to content and social media. Whereas, like, this kid from Sweden who has NBA aspirations meets an American coach and he's like, trying to be a sponge. That's the one thing I've noticed. And I've also been fortunate enough to do camps in places like Iceland and Italy and Aruba, Vietnam. And, the main thing that I've learned from those overseas camps is, like I said, just the desire for knowledge. Because imagine if like you had the smartest, like Albert Einstein, for example, was like you had 1 hour with him. And I'm not comparing myself to him, but that's almost what it feels like when I'm overseas. Like these kids view you like you have this knowledge that they don't have access to, and they're just craving that knowledge, so they're going to make the most out of it. That's the main difference I've seen. And I don't think that's a derogatory like in a negative way towards Americans. I just think Americans are so used to it that they don't necessarily take every single opportunity to squeeze that knowledge, if that makes sense.
No, of course. I was one of those kids. Like I will even travel to a nearby country if I hear a coach or someone. I can go at least like watch or ask a question. Like you said, here a little bit easier to get the knowledge, get the information. You can find someone related to you or family know that who play high level college or even NBA. overseas, just to see an NBA player, it's a big deal by itself. So imagine working with people who work with NBA players. Um, uh, to keep talking about, you mentioned doing some camps overseas. Do you, we had an episode talking about how the game is different, how it played here and versus how you play it overseas. Do you change and tailor your workout or the way you do the camps depends on the country, or in general, like FIBA, you have a certain way to deal with FIBA and then with the rest of the world?
No, honestly, my training style, like the games based approach and setting up different environments, it's actually a lot more aligned to the European style. So I find the European players in America, they love training with me because they're so used to that style from where they came from. And in America, it is a lot more, skill work with cones and just coaches teaching you a lot of dribble moves. And again, a gross generalization, not everybody's like that. I'm sure in Europe they do that as well. But from my experience, the European players who come to America love my training style because they're used to just playing, learning the game, learning how to pass, cut, actually play real basketball. And you notice Illinois has like 5 Eastern Europeans right now. All the overseas, um, the EuroLeague is amazing. So it's just you're noticing the trend of a lot of the top NBA guys being European as well. So
Right,
yeah.
right. 100%. Okay. Well, I would, I don't know if that's okay to share some of your drills, but is there any specific drills? Is there any something you'd be like, this is my go-to in general. This is what I use to get to know the players, where how far I can go with them. We don't want to take any of your content for sure. I know,
No,
you
there's
know,
no gatekeeping
but
content. I mean, really, it's less about the drill and more about architecting the environment and creating problem solvers. So, for example, if a player struggles finishing around the rim, I'm going to set up a one-on-one or one-on-two or two-on-two small-sided game that's going to allow them to find solutions in that scenario. So, just to give you guys an idea, if somebody struggles, uh, you know, maintaining their driving angle against a primary defender, I'm going to set them up hip to hip or put the ball on the defender's back, and then when the offense goes, it's live. Now they have to learn how to maintain the driving angle, and then maybe we add a rotating defender or a gap defender, so they have to get through that gap with a low pickup or a high pickup or a throw through, and then they gotta read the rotating defender. Do they dump it off to the dunker spot? Do they finish? Do they skip it to the weak side? So all that kind of stuff, you can really set it up. There's hundreds of drill setups you can do. It's really just putting them in the problem, and then you can help them. You can mix up the drill depending on the easiest and most effective way that they can find the solution. And then there's just repetition without repetition, putting them in that scenario 50 to 100 times and just letting them see that over and over, because basketball is a game of patterns and pattern recognition. So if you can see that the helper drops and goes to the dunker spot and you don't have that pass, well, now you got to skip it to the weak side because there's a 2-on-1 on the weak side. And just seeing those patterns, I think it's my job to help players identify those patterns and put them in scenarios where they're able to get repetitions at it. So
and through
yeah,
through your session, you focus on multiple things, like you do like little dribbling, little shooting, or you take your time with each skill, with each, like let's say this week we're gonna focus more on shooting, let's say, or you try to mix it up
I
always and
think
make it
yeah,
challenging.
I think it depends on like where the player's at. If it's one of my high level players and we have access to their film, we'll really only focus on one or two things in the workout. Um, for a younger group or maybe like a camp or a high school group, I'll be more widespread. So maybe I do a 20-minute finishing segment, then a 20-minute shooting segment, a 20-minute ball handling segment, just to expose them to a lot of things, especially if I'm doing a camp. Like I was just in Kentucky this past week and I work with a middle school team down there, and I'm only there for 2 days, maybe 8 hours on court. So in those 8 hours, I'm trying to expose them to as much as possible because then I'm not going to be there for another month or two. So I do believe in depth over width in a way, but when I'm only there for a small amount of time, I want to expose them to a lot so that they can work on those things when I'm not there. So
I
Can I
love your
ask?
knowledge and the way, like
really appreciate it.
I can see you seeing everything going on the court, just listening to you. That's amazing, man. Good for you. I'm so happy for you. Mike,
Thank
you
you. I
want to ask
appreciate it.
something?
Yeah, I guess you've seen so many players come in at different levels. Is there anything you see that's most commonly sort of either inconsistent or not developed that maybe we can tell some of the our young listeners, like, consistently people come in, but this aspect of their game has not been developed. They've been
Yeah.
overemphasizing X.
What a great
Is
question.
No, yeah, great question. Number one, shooting is always the first thing, and it's the most important skill in basketball. So I think I'm really, really good at teaching shooting, but the hard part is when somebody has a really bad habit, a lot of times young players are reluctant to change that habit. And it makes sense. It's like if you've been writing righty your whole life and your teacher told you to start writing lefty, you would probably be reluctant to it. So shooting, definitely we see a lot of poor mechanics, I would say from age 12 to 17. That's really when you start to get strong enough to shoot. And so I'm the type of coach where if I see you can't shoot, I'm not going to work on anything else besides shooting, because if you can't shoot, it's really hard to play. The second thing I would say is making quick decisions off the catch. So if you don't have a great shot, then you're not ready to shoot, right? Jay Wright has a really good quote that says, the most open you'll ever be is right on the catch. So you should always be thinking catch and shoot right away. But if you don't have a great shot, then you're probably thinking you're going to put the ball on the floor or drive. So once you master the shot, I think being able to make those quick 0-second decisions where if you have a closeout opportunity, how do you maintain that advantage? And we see a lot of players are not great at maintaining advantages because they're so used to not being ready to catch and shoot, and then also so used to the dribble combos. So now the advantage gets closed in. So what we really focus on is advantage creation, but then also advantage maintenance, where can you off a swing maintain that advantage and attack the closeout and keep the dominoes flowing. So I think those are the two most underdeveloped things. I think advantage maintenance is underdeveloped because a lot of people don't train in live scenarios. A lot of people train against cones and in fake environments, like I was mentioning, so that once they get in the game, they haven't trained those decisions, and now they're not great at maintaining advantages. So hope that makes sense. But that's kind of how we see
Of
it.
course. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Well, let me go away a little bit farther than just basketball. I'm a person too who love business. I'm a business owner too, and I wanna like we wanna learn from you. How did you handle the business aspect? How did you build your empire that you have right now? We're athlete at the end, so it's hard
Yeah,
to pivot and learn how to be a business owner. Tell me more about that if
it
possible.
is. Look, man, I'm learning every single day, and I think number one is dropping your ego and being humble and realizing that you don't know that much and you need to constantly be a lifelong learner and surround yourself with people smarter than you. So I've been full-time for almost 3 years now. It's been quite a journey. We have a full-time team of 3. So it's me, and I'll shout my 2 guys out. I have a full-time content director named Nate. He's been with me from the beginning when we played in college together. And then my guy Jake got with us 2 years ago. He is my academy director in Philadelphia. He runs all of our youth programming in Philadelphia and has become a really good trainer and just a great leader as well. Yeah, it's tough. You're managing so many different things, from on one side managing people and managing employees and how do you keep them happy and develop them. Then you're also managing providing the actual service and making sure the athletes are happy, the parents are happy. Now you got to collect payments, so it's payroll and dealing with taxes and accounting. And there's so many different departments that, especially when it's just you by yourself,
You wear all
every
the hats.
entrepreneur,
You wear
yeah,
all the hats.
every entrepreneur has gone through it. You wear all the hats. And honestly, I mentor a lot of like trainers just starting out right now, and they're like, where do I start? And I almost just take a deep breath and I'm like, man, there's a lot you got to go
There's a
through.
lot to
But
go.
I think the most important thing is just trying to show up every single day, and there's going to be a lot of shitty days, and just continue to move forward, and then you'll look up in 3 years and hopefully be make some progress. So, that's kind of what I would say. It definitely is a huge mindset shift going from being a basketball trainer slash coach to a business owner. And one of the hardest parts for me is my number one passion is basketball coaching and development. And so when I became a business owner, I found I didn't have as much time to study the game and develop as a coach. So, I'd go through 3, 6, 9 month seasons where I wouldn't even watch any film because I'd be so occupied on payroll and running the business and trying to set up how to create revenue. So I, I'm glad I'm at a point now where I've learned to delegate and scale. So I've really been able to, the last 6 months, get back to what I love to do. I think it's a journey every business owner is going to have to go through, where you have to do stuff for a long time that you don't necessarily enjoy, if you want to truly build a business. If I didn't want to build a business, I could just go work for a high school, college, or professional team and just be a coach. I see that in my future potentially, but right now my passion is to be a business owner and a leader. So it is tough because then you're sacrificing time developing as a coach to be a business owner. So yeah,
Right.
I'm
Well,
curious
here's
how you
here's
guys,
the
if you guys have anything you could help me with. So.
yeah. Well, here's the $1 million question. I always say basketball and sport teach you life. So, what's that skill you use when you were a player and when you become a trainer and when you start your business? And it's the same thing that keeps you going, keeps you flourishing.
Great question.
Definitely consistency and showing up every single day. There's obviously all those cliche quotes like 1% better, and I like the quote consistency compounds. That's kind of my motto, and just
Beautiful.
showing up every single day. And I heard a quote in 2017, I'll never forget it, from one of our upperclassmen in high school, and he told me that hard work doesn't guarantee success, it just guarantees that you can live with the results. So I'm a big no regrets guy, and so I like
I love it.
it's one of those things where it's the same thing as a player. I was 7 days a week, 2 times a day, and I only played Division 3. But I can live with the results because there was nothing that I left in the tank. So it's the same thing as a business owner. I think just putting your foot forward every single day, and you know I've detached. Like, maybe you want to build $100 million company, but I've tried to detach from arbitrary numbers, and it's just like enjoying it and seeing how long you can play the game. That's kind of my new mindset. It's like most businesses go out of business in the first 2, 3, 4 years or
For
whatever. It's
years.
like, how long can you just keep playing the game and enjoying it? That's kind of where my results are now. So that's the biggest mindset I took from playing, is that you just show up every day and detach from the outcomes, and good stuff will happen. So
Beautiful, beautiful. And just for or our listener and subscribers, um, I feel like there's a lot more to talk about with you. So I'm hoping to get another episode from you, or hopefully sometime we get to visit you in your own home court and
yeah,
learn more from you for sure. And hopefully, do more collabs on a lot of projects. I was telling Mike, I get a lot of calls and invites from people I work with overseas, like, do you have someone to come and give us like a camp, or to learn more? And now, like, I think sky is the limit for us with you being who you are. So that's awesome, man. Mike, do you have anything you want to ask?
Yeah, just I'd love to hear some of your success stories. Just if we can highlight some of the players that you've worked with, what was their journey? Where did they end up? Some insights from you, just to sort of let's set some models and some examples that some of our audiences can aim for, and know more about what you can deliver.
yeah. The coolest part for me about player development is a lot of my clients that I'm with, I've been with for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and that's my favorite thing, is developing players from a young age. So, my top guy, Mac McClung, is on the Chicago Bulls. I've known him for, I think we've worked. This will be our 6th summer working out together, um, and he's become one of my best friends now, and it's just been really cool to build our relationship on the court, but more importantly off the court. Another guy, Jake West, is the starting point guard at Northwestern. We're actually from the same hometown, and I've known him since he was probably 6 or 7 years old. And we started training during COVID when he was in 8th grade, and we would work out outside in 2020. And now he's starting in Big Ten basketball, so that's been really cool. And then, I mean, there's a ton of others. We have a lot of other high school and college players. The coolest part for me is I'm not one of those guys that likes to work out guys 1 or 2 times and post them on Instagram. It's more of developing that long-term relationship. So most of the people that we post on my social medias are really only players that we've been locked in with for a while, because I think there's a beauty in that, in building the relationship and building a player from the ground up. Now, don't get me wrong. If an all-star called me right now and said they wanted to work out, I'm sure I would jump at that opportunity. But I think I'm a big process guy, and I think developing an all-star with alongside someone is really what I'm passionate about, and we hope to do in the next couple of years. And don't forget the women's side.
Is there any
We were
name?
fortunate enough.
Is there any name? Is there any name coming up soon? You think is gonna be a somebody you work with? Is you think is gonna be like a star? Somebody like people sleeping
Yeah,
on?
yeah. I think Jake West has a really good shot. Jake West is a really good shot. Another one of my guys, Caden Lewis. He was at Villanova. Now he's going to Miami. So we got to work out the last year, and now he's transferring to Miami. He has a lot of potential. Another one of my guys, Tyler Perkins at Villanova. Some of my high school guys, Sammy Jackson is committed to VCU. He'll be an incoming freshman. He's 6'8", all the skill set in the world. So there's a lot of potential. And then on the women's side, one of my girls, Shay Chesky, just signed a training camp deal with the Phoenix Mercury. So that's exciting. We're hoping she sticks in the WNBA. And Caitlin Chen on the Golden State Valkyries I've gotten to work with over the last 3 years. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and the biggest thing for me is just trying to be available as much as I possibly can. So, juggling being there for my high level clients while also building a business and doing all that, it's been hard, but it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
Well, congratulations on all your success, man. And I definitely want to have you back on the show. We definitely want to have you back on the show, and definitely get some more collaboration.
Yeah, man, that was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and definitely look forward to coming on again and continuing this relationship.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for the great knowledge and your personality and everything. Like you said, we have hopefully we have a lot more to come in the future. In the meantime, please, if anybody, to all our listeners and subscribers, if you have a question you want to ask Danny, if you have something you want to learn more about him, we're gonna share his website and everything. But feel free to reach out to us and ask the question. I'm sure the great person he is, he will be happy to answer and give a little feedback. But other than that, please, guys, go check him out. He's the real deal, and great to have you again. More to come.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Thanks, Danny. All right, we'll
Thank you.
talk soon. Thanks, everyone.
All right. See
All
you.
right, take care, Danny. See ya. Bye bye.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.